So my name is Susan Kiefer, and I am a master herbalist as well as an iridologist. I've done research for really mostly since the early 90s, which is about 20 years. And this subject on sustainability started for me back then, but it mostly in the last year the Boy Scouts have added it as a merit badge. So that I'm a merit badge counselor for it. So now that led me to put this presentation together, which in addition to my background in health and research with what's going on with the food supply, when you put the two together, that's what this is about today.
I'm going to be ignorant. What's an iridologist?
So an iridologist is someone who studies the iris of the eye.
Yeah.
In the iris you can see all the organs and conditions in the body.
Right.
I have a special camera I use.
Mm-hmm.
And then I use herbs to treat the areas that have the most toxins where they've settled, and you can see based on pigment color and depth and different signs like that. Okay, so what I was saying though is I've given this presentation 8 times, or this is the 8th time, and every time, based on people's comments and feedback, I've edited it and increased it actually and perfected it more based on people, maybe having a question that didn't get answered in it, or I needed more detail on, why I was saying something.
Okay.
So I'm hoping this is the very last time I have to do anything like that, and it will be complete as of this time. Is she coming?
Yeah, she's just giving them a little food.
So, you're listening? All right, because I'll get started anytime you come back in. So yeah, hopefully this will be the last time, and I'm going to go through it pretty quickly because I want to really finish it in an hour and a half. And and I don't know what your backgrounds are with how much you've been following what's changed in the world with the food supply. Do you have an interest in this?
Well, I'm concerned that, with the chemicals they put on food and stuff like that. So.
How long are you both from Germany?
Yeah.
How long ago have you come to this country?
Oh, I've been living here a long time.
So, because I know Germany is much farther ahead of us in terms
they always have been.
In terms of, I've heard that they recycle everything.
Sure.
And
yeah.
As far as herbs go, I know with their scientific studies are
herbalists.
much more advanced than. So what made you come to America?
Curiosity.
And then you just stayed.
I have no idea what's all about. I have to say, I'm quite, I think I need a hearing aid.
Oh.
I cannot quite understand you.
Is it because of the volume or because?
Yeah.
So maybe you should scoot up a little further. Can you move up to like right closer?
Right here?
I'm just gonna repeat again that my name is Susan Kiefer. I have written a book called Closer to the Sun. A recipe book for health for the next evolutionary phase of mankind, which I don't know if you're familiar with, but let me just show that for her. Okay, this is what it looks like.
Okay.
And it has
Closer
33
to the sun.
chapters, and 200 recipes that are sustainable for the planet. But that's kind of why that's the solution to this PowerPoint. But now we're gonna get through it. All right, everyone ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is called, oh, by the way, if anyone has any cell phones, put it on vibrate or whatever. All right, so this is called, okay, this came up last time. Sustainability. Is the Earth dying? So the Earth is 4.6 billion years old. If we scale that down to 46 years, we've been here for just 4 hours. And our Industrial Revolution began just 1 minute ago. In that time, we have managed to destroy more than 50% of the world's forests in just 1 minute of humans being on the planet. And this is where I started to put down all these things from looking at the merit badge for the Boy Scouts. All these high 97%, 98%, 95% of oysters, fish in the ocean, which is in the movie Happy Feet. Everyone thinks that's about a happy penguin dancing. the first 5 minutes of that cartoon, they talk about how 97% of the fish are gone, and that's what the movie is about. The penguins trying to find food, the whole movie.
Right.
So there's more than just these examples, but this was alarming to me. And that's where I said, does this look like the earth is dying to you? And I asked my son, what do you make of all this? And he's the one who said the earth is dying. And I was like, you're right.
Yes.
So how is it that Native Americans managed to live on this continent for over 10,000 years without ever increasing their population or decreasing any others, without disturbing any ecosystems or destroying any life on the planet? In over 10,000 years, they were here, maintaining their population levels on purpose. Does anyone know how they did that? They actually separated the males from the females, and it was the females' decision when they wanted to add children.
Okay.
So when civilized man first came to the Americas, the first thing we did was using biological warfare on the Native Americans, purposely infecting them with the smallpox virus, which wiped out 95% of their population, more than any swords, guns, or armies combined. This was no random infectious spread. This was purposely done. This was done in 1763 using blankets that had been exposed to the smallpox virus. The British Army attempted to infect all of those Native Americans. They said not only did the smallpox devastate the Indian population, but it did so in an unforgiving way. The dying Indian villages became overrun with wolves feasting on the corpses and the weakened survivors that were still alive. And this other person, William Walker, described it as saying, "The Indians are all dying by this distemper, lying dead about the barren ground like rotten sheep, their tents left standing and the wild beasts devouring them." And that's how the Native Americans were destroyed. Smallpox was also used to destroy the Aztecs in the 1500s, 2 centuries earlier, and the same thing happened there. They said they were dying in heaps like bed bugs, and it was impossible to bury how many there were. And when Cortez returned, the soldiers that still were alive were so weak he was very able to easily defeat them. So again, they weren't depending on their military strength, they used biological warfare. Biological warfare is not a new concept. Unlike HIV, Ebola can survive outside the host.
It's terrible, this
Yes, and a virus is not actually considered a living organism because it can't produce without a host cell. It's just a tiny piece of genetic information surrounded by a protein. But like HIV, Ebola also can be spread through sperm. And both originated in lab monkeys from Africa, which also coincidentally happens to be where the largest growing segment of population in the world is.
Well, isn't it we're also...
How could 4,000 people die, in West Africa, right? 4,000 people
From Ebola?
come from
I heard 7,000.
No, well, hear the news.
Also,
That's what the 7
yeah.
was
So it's
repeating.
a little bit like AIDS.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Is
Except
that
it's
right?
better
Like AIDS,
than
yeah.
AIDS because it can survive outside the host.
Right.
Horrible.
So the evidence for this is very compelling. It's been known from a long time that if a man recovers from Ebola, about 45% survive in terms of the Ebola virus in the DNA in the semen for up to 7 weeks after they say they've cured him. It's still valid and viable for 7 weeks. So no one is certain that it's actually living, transmissible virus, but any time a rapidly dividing virus is detectable for that long, he says, in my opinion, certain that the virus is in fact alive and ready to kick. The risk is great enough that most experts recommend no unprotected sexual intercourse for 3 months after they're saying someone has recovered. And that's not what's happening. They're still very active sexually, and they aren't really saying that this is passed through the semen and that it is still active after they've recovered for 7 weeks. This was just written last month. So
This just came out.
in Africa, you can see that the total fertility rate compared to the rest of the country is very high. In Africa, they have about, the darkest areas are 8 to 9 children per female. The orange is 7 to 8, and the yellow is 6 to 7. So compared to the rest of the world, they're having an awful lot of births. And the life expectancy of Africa is only an average of 54 years versus the United States is almost 80. The black area in Africa is actually less than 40 years old, is how long their life expectancy is. So where did civilized man come from? When the Europeans first came to America, everyone thinks it was because of religious freedom. It was actually because they had destroyed all their forests in Europe. They had no more wood to build their ships. They had no more wood for their houses. The kings owned all the wood, the forests. They had also run out of clean water. That's why they were always drinking wine, because they needed the sanitation from the alcohol. They could no longer drink their polluted water. They needed more resources. That's why they came looking for a land that had not already been destroyed. But we never hear about that side of the story.
Exactly.
And in just 200 years, after the Native Americans had been here 10,000 years with not a tree destroyed, in just 200 years, civilized man has now deforested America, a land that once they said had so many trees a squirrel could literally jump from tree to tree all the way across the continent without touching the ground. And yet consumers can not seem to stop consuming. And here's what most cities look like. We happen to be in an area, West Palm Beach has more traffic than where I'm from, but I still don't think, do you think it looks like this? I don't know. I don't think it's that bad.
At times, it depends what hour of the day you
I
travel.
think DC looks like that.
California certainly does.
You know,
So, just for a little bit of history, by 1900, New York City population was doubling every decade. There were over 200,000 horses, each producing 25 pounds of manure every day that they had nowhere to put it. They had nowhere to get 25 pounds a day. They were starting to pile up and clogging all their sewers. That's when they came up with the New York City Sanitation Department.
I see.
They had to come up with a way to get rid of all that garbage. And the only place they could put it was in the water.
sure.
This was also a problem in Chicago in 1850. But Chicago was actually a sunken city, so the water didn't just drain, the waste material didn't just naturally get washed into the water. They had to actually raise the city 10 feet by using jacks and corkscrews, and they literally picked up all the buildings and the hotels with people still in them and moved them around, so that they could elevate the city 10 feet. And then that allowed their waste to just drain off into the lake. By 1804, 200 years ago, people were already complaining in Pennsylvania that it was too crowded. This was 200 years ago. The problem has only gotten worse. And here's what Manhattan looks like today. There is 69,000 people per square mile. So, yes, they preserved Central Park, but other than that, compared to there's Vero Beach, where, like I'm from, which has 1,100 people per square mile, and hopefully won't increase too much. This is in Mumbai, India, in the slum area. All those are roofs. See in the picture there?
Yeah. And color.
Those are all rooftops of 777,000 population per square mile. And this is Hong Kong. These are rooftops again. This is another area of India. This is an island in Colombia. We just got nowhere else to go, right? Here's Bangladesh, 263,000 people per square mile. Brazil, look at Brazil.
Oh, wow.
Kenya, here's the slums in Kenya. The Philippines, Hong Kong. So there's this guy, Robert Jensen. He wrote a book called Arguing for Our Lives. He says the concentrated energy of fossil fuels really changed the way human beings lived on the planet. prior to that kind of energy, to do massive, large-scale global damage, it just wasn't available. But for the last 250 years, it has been. And that's what I'm saying in 1800, right when about this started becoming available, is when everyone started complaining that it was certainly getting too polluted, too crowded. And he says, to me, that's the game changer, that we have to recognize that, in fact, things do change, and that the last 250 years have been a kind of experiment in destruction that we either wake up from or we don't. Human activity is pushing the planet beyond the limits it is capable of. It absolutely cannot do this indefinitely. There is a limit. The definition of sustainable is capable of being continued with minimal long-term effect on the environment, able to be used without being completely used up or destroyed, able to last or continue for a long time. That is what sustainable is. We are now past that tipping point. We have gone beyond what the planet is capable of providing. And they say that if we were to stop everything immediately today, it would still take decades for that momentum to stop its damage.
Stop it, yeah.
Even if we stopped today, everything that we're doing wrong. So there's a company here that says they have this logo on bags and t-shirts, Bye Bye Planet, and it's been estimated that to meet the demands of our current rate of consumption, we would need the resources of 5 Earths. And that's just without any increase in population for the amount of people we have now. But the problem is we have only the one. Warning signal after warning signal goes unheeded time after time. The magnitude of the environmental crisis demands not more talk, but action. I think the problem is that people just don't know what to do. They think that the government should come up with new cars and that's going to solve the problem, or demand that everybody use some kind of alternative energy and that's going to solve the problem. So people just don't do anything different in their own lives. They're waiting for someone else to make the change for them. But this Robert Jensen, he says, we can't predict when this party will end, but make no mistake, the party's over, folks. We are in the process of the long emergency now. We have entered that zone. And Bill McKibben, he's another author, he says, the world hasn't ended, but the world as we know it has, even if we don't quite know it yet. So, have you heard of the trash vortex? That is the swirling mass of plastic water bottles and plastic garbage bags in the ocean.
Oceans, yeah.
5 miles square.
Yeah, it's just like in a swirling eddy. They estimate that it is 5 million square miles big, equal to the size of 2 United States, and that's just in the Pacific Ocean.
Right.
Every plastic water bottle or soda bottle takes 450 years to break down.
Oh,
And we are buying them by the cases. Nobody
isn't it?
seems to, that's one thing people could do, is get
they
a
never-
bottle that you refill.
Yeah.
We never had all the plastic bottles when I grew up in Germany.
Yeah,
You only have
yeah, I
glass
can
bottles.
imagine Germany would
We only
not.
had glass bottles.
Right.
And you
Exactly.
couldn't buy a plastic bag when you go grocery shopping. You have to bring your own bag.
Right.
They still are like that today.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I remember when
It's gonna
plastic,
come here.
And they're doing it in California now as of January
Wait, they're
oh,
1st.
they're demanding it?
Yeah.
Like no more plastic bags
No.
in the grocery stores?
No.
Well, at least that.
It's a paper or you have to bring your own.
But the problem with paper is then that's more trees. So even though they
Well-
say plastic or paper, it's like.
That's like
Okay.
Aldi. You
Yeah,
remember
but I
Aldi?
think-
Aldi here? Yeah. You have,
I remember when plastic water bottles first came out, everyone was like, no one is going to pay $1 or whatever they were asking to buy a bottle of water. And now it's become like nobody thinks twice about
I
it.
don't have it.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
So here's what it looks like in the Pacific Ocean. It's this large. And there's actually a lot of animals get confused and they think that they're eating food. And if you look into this pelican here, he's
And
got
they
all
get
this
stuffed in the
plastic
stomach,
in him,
yeah.
thinking that it's food. And this is very, very
And
common.
dangerous, yeah.
But there's actually 5 areas altogether, more than just that one. If you can see that it really is most of the ocean. This is what it looks like close up. This is a boy
Ah, my God.
right in the middle of it in his boat. And there's just another shot of it. This is
Any
like
action?
rivers that people, you know, there was several pictures I could have chosen, but here's just like, you know, a river in someone's backyard. And these are people who have come upon it. This isn't land here, this is water. And that's what it looks like when you come to the border of it. So it's just out there, and it's 5 million square miles in that one location.
Right.
Sometimes wildlife crawls into these plastic things, like this is the plastic milk jug thing, and they grow without ever getting out, and so that's the result of what happened in this case. You know, all kinds of examples. So there's also a dead zone in the Gulf of Mexico, equal to the size of New Jersey presently. This comes from all the chemical fertilizers and pesticides being used in farming, as again in the feedlots, they're on land, they're landlocked, they have nowhere to put all this manure. I mean, 200,000 horses were creating 25 pounds a day. This is major factory farming area in the center of our country, and all this waste has nowhere to go. So it flows into the Mississippi River ultimately, and that goes into the Gulf of Mexico, which is creating the dead zone in the Gulf of Mexico, which they're expecting is well on its way to becoming an aquatic desert where nothing will live.
Well, a few years ago, they had so much garbage in Manhattan and New York, but they're putting it on the train. And then the train was supposed to deliver it somewhere, but then that place didn't take them. So I don't know how long they were on the water trying to get rid of the garbage on the train.
I mean, I've heard they're trying to put it in space now.
Oh, really?
So yeah, a lot of this is because of factory farming, most of it.
Mm-hmm.
And here's just how they're just dumping it, you know, into water.
Into
Like,
water.
yes, this is contained on someone's yard, but it all does leach into the ground
Sure.
and the waterways, where it becomes poisonous hazard,
Yeah.
where nothing.
Well, that's
Because
what they're
plastic
saying.
doesn't
Yeah.
disintegrate. It
Yeah.
stays in the ground, I don't know for how many years.
Exactly.
And these are fish that have swum into that dead zone in the Gulf of Mexico, that it instantly kills them because there's no oxygen in those areas. So this is all those fish just washed up to shore.
Mm-hmm.
Dead zones are also on the rise, not just in the Gulf of Mexico. There's actually 405 dead zones in the world, totaling over 95,000 square miles, where no marine life can be supported.
Mm-hmm.
And here's where a lot of them are. So you can see, if you put all those trash vortexes in between all these land masses, in addition to the shorelines being without oxygen, I mean, the wildlife has nowhere to go. And they're growing. This chart here, I just want you to see, like back in 1900, it was a very small problem. It really jumped up in 2007, which I noticed a lot of things jumped up in 2007, but that was 7 years ago. I mean, I couldn't find a chart to go up to 2014, but we're probably way up here.
Yeah.
So pesticides from commercial farming are also affecting other ecosystems. Bees, for example, have been around for over 200 million years and lived during the time of the dinosaur. Yet in just the last 30 years, they're saying 50 to 90% are
Gone.
estimated to be gone.
Yeah.
And bees from one hive can visit 1 million flowers in just one day within a 400 square kilometer. From just one hive in one day, 1 million flowers. Einstein once predicted that if bees were to disappear, man would follow only a few years later. And again, this is just in the last 30 years mostly, a species that has lived for 200 million years. So that's why I say, is the earth dying? It doesn't matter what a farmer does if there are no bees. He can have the best soil, the best location, the best seeds, the best crops, the best fertilizers, the best irrigation, but without bees, there will be no fruit. And what would have to happen is people would have to hand paint the flowers with a paintbrush and go between flower to flower, and they'd have to hire workers. And some places are already doing that. So bats are another one. They've been around for 52 million years. They eat up to 2,000 insects a night, up to 600 mosquitoes every hour. And they're also facing extinction now, which is going to result in the farmer needing more pesticides because now the bats aren't helping with the natural pest control. And this is again a species that has been around 52 million years. Frogs and amphibians have also been around for over 300 million years and successfully survived the last 3 mass extinctions, yet they are now facing extinction. Frogs are the greatest friend of the garden because they eat up to 15,000 pest insects every year and none of the good ones, just the bad ones. Part of the problem there is that the estrogen that's being dumped into the waterways through various birth control pills or other hormone, plastic even, is changing the male frogs into females. So that the females are going around pregnant with their eggs and they have nowhere to dump their eggs because the male has to lay a cloud of sperm and they dump their eggs on that sperm. But when they can't find any male frogs, they're just carrying them way past their due date. And they're actually having to hand pick male frogs out of the wild and put them into a lab where they can keep an eye on them and try to keep the species going. But the same thing, they're dying out from the expansion of agriculture, the pesticides and all of that, and which also leads to an increase in more pesticides. So it's this cycle that is just after 300 million years. So in summary, 98% of all species that have ever lived are now extinct, and every 24 hours they're estimating that between 30 and 150 species more are leaving the planet, which is about 1 species every half hour that we're losing. So what does that mean for us? Humans themselves are becoming sterile. Because of the genetically modified food, when they tested it on hamsters, they found that after just 3 generations, the hamsters were sterile from eating genetically modified foods, which most countries won't allow. But in this country, it's actually illegal to tell people which foods are genetically modified. With humans, it would take 5 generations, which is 120 years. But we are already, the babies being born today are the 3rd generation. So and every time this, with the humans, the lifespan is getting less and less with the new ones. They're calling this the Great Genocalypse, which means that the ones who will survive are the ones with the strongest gene pool, like survival of the fittest, the ones who are not eating the contaminated food. There's a guy, Bertrand Russell. Have you heard of him? From 1930. He's predicted all but 5% of males and 30% of females would be sterilized, and that artificial insemination would be the preferred method. And this was before Hitler in 1930. So we are literally in the 6th great mass extinction today, and it is happening at a rate 1,000 times faster than any other extinction in history, 100% caused by the way humans are living on the planet and the choices we are making and how we feed ourselves. We are no longer called Homo sapiens, we are now called Homo destructivus, which means destructive humans. And this is on the exhibit in the Florida Museum of Natural History in Gainesville. They have a whole thing about this. I'm not just making this up.
Okay.
So for the first time in 2008, 65% of all our food was imported, more than what we grew for ourselves. They're predicting by next year, 46% of all our fresh vegetables will come from China, because people would rather pay for the cheaper cost products of lesser quality. In other words, the typical American does not care what he eats as long as it is cheap. But what happens when we can no longer use fossil fuel to transport food from across the world? Now that we've become dependent on that, that's where everybody is concerned. Family farms have been disappearing at the rate of 1 farm every hour, which equals 2 acres of farmland every minute, due to big commercial, unsustainable agriculture. 15,000 years ago, the first farmers started saving seeds and using those seeds to plant the next crop, and every year doing the same thing. And that's how farmers did it for thousands of years. They kept their own seeds until Monsanto. Have you heard of Monsanto? So Monsanto is claiming, this is the new vision for agriculture, to that whoever controls the seed bank of the world controls the world's food supply, and that is absolutely their goal, to control the world's food supply. They own the lion's share of patents on all of these seeds,
Wow.
and it's up to them to decide which seeds they release every year that they'll allow people to buy
Right.
and grow. And worse than that, they're making the plants sterile on purpose so that the plants won't produce their own seeds, so that they have to buy.
No, thanks, I'm sorry.
Want some water?
No, I'm allergic to something.
Could you
It's
have
fine.
some water?
No, that's fine, thank you. No,
Okay.
no, that's fine.
You sure?
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
So that forces the farmers to have to buy their seeds. And they said, I just heard this yesterday, that like in India, the farmers are committing suicide. One farmer every 30 minutes is committing suicide because they can't have their farms anymore. They can't make a living doing what they have always done, because Monsanto is just controlling all the countries, not just in the United States. And the farmers in India are committing suicide at the rate of one farmer every 30 minutes. So almost 96% of all the commercial vegetable varieties that were available in 1903 are now extinct. It's not just the animals that are going extinct. What they're doing is they're splicing terminator genes, they're called, into the plants at the genetic level, which is what keeps them from being able to produce their own seeds. And there's a film called Silent Forest. If you haven't seen it, it's about trees, that they're doing this with the trees for the paper producing industry, so that there won't be any insects that would want to eat the trees, and then they're kind of making artificial trees in a sense, because the tree doesn't produce any nuts, seeds, pollen, fruit, or flowers. So there's no wildlife, there's no insects, there's no offspring, and that's why it's called the Silent Forest. So a lot of people don't think about paper, but the paper producing industry is a problem too. So there's a Kinko says it's a copy company that, they don't buy genetically engineered paper. But nobody talks about that over here. So without trees, the rain disappears. The earth becomes desert and the oxygen supply becomes depleted. In the time of the dinosaurs, oxygen was so plentiful that dragonflies were literally 6 feet in wingspan. And armadillos were as big as Volkswagen, which is a sign of how much oxygen there was on the planet at that time. And the fact that they're so tiny today just shows you the difference. I mean, there was just endless trees at that time. But now, as you saw those other pictures, we don't have trees anymore. And this is just showing how trees are actually the lungs of the earth. So without the trees, people are not going to have a lot of oxygen to breathe. So today's food supply has been weakened at best, contaminated at worst, and is often the very cause of the cancer we seek to avoid. It has been genetically manipulated. Shopping at the grocery store and not buying organic is not good enough anymore.
Yeah.
And children are suffering with the same adult diseases that used to take decades to acquire. Now they're getting them as children. And this is what I'm talking about with the generations of the gene pool already getting weakened. Today's children are the first generation that are going to have a shorter lifespan than their parents. So that's what the next generation would be, probably a shorter lifespan than them, and this is how we get to that sterile generation after 5 generations. We just start living less and less. Obesity is expected to increase by 65 million more adults in 2030.
Really?
I know, isn't that shocking?
Okay.
I was alarmed that why are they expecting it to get worse? I mean, why would they possibly be making a projection?
So many videos out how to lose weight, how to eat, how to, oversaturated.
There's a movie called Fed Up,
Doesn't seem
which
to
came
help.
out in May. And this is what if you don't believe what I'm saying, watch this movie, you'll see the same things. Katie Couric in that film, she says over 95% of all Americans will be overweight or obese in just 2 decades, less than 20 years. 95%. There's a movie, Wall-E. You probably haven't heard of that. That was a
Yeah, Wall-E.
cartoon. You did hear of it?
No.
Did you watch it?
No.
No.
Okay.
I didn't
It was
see
about how on planet Earth we had destroyed all the plant life, and there was so much garbage we had piled up that they had robots on the planet scooping up all the garbage into square blocks and then piling it on top of everywhere that they could, and it was just piled high, and there were no humans on the planet. They had all left and gone to another planet, and on that planet, that's where this picture is. All the humans were just very obese, and they were in motorized chairs. Everything was a drive-through. Their computers were like this in front of their face. They had a cell phone on the side of their face, and they never had to get out. And when they did get out, and if they fell out of the chair, they couldn't get back up. They had to help each other stand up because of obesity. And that's exactly where we're headed.
Right.
So diabetes is also expected to increase even if obesity stayed the same. Why would that be? Just one can of soda every day increases your chance of diabetes by 20%. The same movie says by 2050, 1 out of 3 Americans will have diabetes. I mean, look at the trend we're heading towards, right? The same thing with Alzheimer's, expected to increase by 81%. This was a statistic I just heard this past summer. And I'm saying, why? Why is everything going to get worse? Here's where we are today, 35 million. They're expecting 115 million Americans in the next couple of
In
decades.
2050.
Yeah, that's just one
That won't
chart.
be long.
No, right.
But cancer is also expected to triple in just the next 15 years.
Isn't
They're
that
building
something?
more cancer hospitals.
Really?
Isn't that something?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Which means 80% of the people.
Yeah.
80%.
Yep.
Which they're saying pancreatic cancer is going to become the second leading cause of cancer. Right now it's fourth leading. They're expecting pancreatic cancer to be, and in that trend really, that means it's heading towards the #1 position, which the pancreas is the hardest of all cancers to recover from.
To cure, yeah.
So that's what's moving up. So HIV, they're saying, started when hunters in West Africa killed and ate infected chimpanzees. So I'm saying, if you believe this is how HIV started, then what does that say about the sexual nature of the hunters? How does it then jump immediately to the gay community if it was caused by hunters eating infected chimpanzees? You believe that?
I cannot believe that.
14,000 people, they're saying, contract HIV every day still, and nobody talks about this. They talk about cancer and diabetes and everything else, but there's just nothing mentioned about it. And people think it's not still happening.
Yeah,
It is
I think
still
it doesn't
happening.
exist anymore, but it does. Yeah.
We have more than 1 million people living with HIV in the United States, where 1 in 6 are unaware that they have it. 1 in 4 is new infections from the ages of 13 to 24 in the youth is 25% of the new infections. And in our country, there's actually a lot more heterosexual transmission occurring than in Europe. Right now we have 53% male to male, and 31% is male to female, or mostly male to female.
Well, because I think also, Susan, because in certain countries in Europe, you have legalized prostitution. And like in Germany, you have to go to the doctor, right? Once a week, once a month to be checked.
Oh,
Yeah, so it's more controlled there. I think maybe
Wow.
that's why.
Surprising it's not here.
No, and then they
That's
have
right.
a certificate from the health department, right?
Right.
That they're clean, and
Right.
if they're not, then they're out of commission. Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
to continue their profession.
Yeah, it's like a regular profession, and they pay taxes and everything.
Oh,
But it's legalized, and and they're controlled by the health department.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so you can see in this map from 2002 that it was primarily in Africa was the biggest problem with the HIV and the AIDS,
Mm-hmm.
which, as I said, Africa had the largest growth in population in the
Oh,
world.
yeah.
This is 2002, okay?
Yeah.
So
Oh,
now I'm going
yeah.
to show you 2012. Now look who's joined them. And the United States, Alaska, and India now have over 1 million in all those areas.
Yeah.
So look, see the difference in 10 years?
Mm-hmm.
What are you saying, Susan? I
But it's
can't
also
hear
the
you.
population, I mean.
Move
So-
up with them. I was saying that the difference between 2002 in the world is this map here, where Africa has the most concentration of HIV and AIDS. But now in 2012, the United States, Alaska, and India have the same area of over 1 million people, is what that stands for.
Wow.
In the last 10 years. And in the United States, since it began in 1981, so it's 1.2 million, but here it's mostly in the southeast, say the dark blue is the highest concentration, and the northeast, more than California, where I think is where the outbreak first started in our country, but now it is mostly southeast and northeast. So mercury is highly poisonous, switching subjects. Most of it is coming from Asia burning coal, is the primary source of mercury emissions worldwide. The Pacific Ocean, they're saying, will be twice as contaminated with mercury in 2050 as it was 20 years ago. And wild-caught fish are the problem. People think, you know, what do I choose, farm-raised fish or wild-caught fish? Wild-caught fish has mercury and radiation, but farm-raised fish are no better because they're being fed the genetically modified corn and concentrated pellets of the wild-caught fish, which means they're even more mercury unless you're raising them yourself and you know whatever you're feeding them. And this is showing the radiation levels from the explosion in Japan and how far it's spread in the oceans. So different seafood has different levels. The worst are swordfish, shark, and tuna. Those are all at the bottom here. Which 40% of Americans' mercury comes from tuna.
The ocean, I can't like that.
There's 2 scientists that did experiments on autopsied brains of Alzheimer's patients, and they found that they all had higher levels of mercury than the people who didn't have Alzheimer's. They had lower levels. 100% of people tested by hair follicle testing showed significant levels of mercury. In studies done, 100% of people now they have mercury. It can also, they're connecting Alzheimer's with mercury in the brain, which it can also occur through dental fillings, which passes the blood-brain barrier that are in our mouth. So how much mercury is really in a flu shot? This first little level here is what the EPA set as the safe drinking level of mercury, 2 parts per billion. The typical level in tuna is 250 parts per billion. That's the second one here. Whitefish has 500 parts per billion, which was the highest level tested in fish. But here's how much a flu shot has. 51,000 parts per billion. And here's a guideline of flu shots in children age 6 months. It's 16 times higher than the EPA limits.
Okay.
All the way down to adults, which end up being 3.5 times. But those flu shots are something that, this is Moms Against Mercury.
Mercury is deadly. See?
Certain schools won't admit children. Certain schools will not admit children
Yeah,
unless they have the flu shot.
I will never get one. Never have.
No, me either.
No.
So factory farming has got to go. That is our biggest problem. I say either raise it yourself or get into a co-op where you're sharing a cow with someone, or
Right.
don't eat meat anymore. It's that simple. Enough is enough. We are at the point where it has
Exactly.
to go.
Very good.
It is the biggest contributor of greenhouse gas on the planet, causing more greenhouse gas emissions than all the cars, trucks, planes, and ships in the world combined. But they never talk about this. Even at the United Nations Summit last 2 weeks ago,
2 weeks ago.
they're all talking about still the energy sources, the automobiles. Not one person talked about factory farming, and it's more than everything else combined. This is showing that the lighter green is organic farming, the darker green is conventional. So you can see even people who are eating organic meat,
Mm-hmm.
it's still this long bar across here that's almost the same as conventional farming in terms of greenhouse gas emissions, because it's coming from the methane from the animal. So whether it's organic or not, it's still occurring. Vegetarianism, where you're still eating eggs, is still a problem. Eggs, people who still eat eggs, we can't,
Not supposed to?
the chickens are still suffering. Whether you're not eating the chicken and you're only eating the egg, they're
It's not-
still
yeah.
being mass produced
Right.
unnaturally.
Right.
And there's still the waste of the chicken. So that's why vegetarianism is not that great either. It really has to become veganism now, where it's just vegetables. That's what we've done to the planet.
Well,
The
I like my eggs.
factory farmed cows and animals, that's all their problems. The dead zones, the water pollution, the methane, the soil erosion. Not to mention that 80% of the antibiotics in this country are used on the factory farmed animals. 80%. Because of the conditions they're living in. They need to have them in there. 80 to 90% of all the deforestation in the Amazon is due to clearing the land to raise those cattle and to raise the feed to feed the cattle. So that's just a problem. We just can't afford it anymore.
Right.
We're done with eating meat.
Right.
In addition to that, it takes 5,000 gallons of water to raise 1 pound of beef
Can't believe.
versus just 5 gallons of water to raise 1 pound of plant-based protein. So every time you go to the store and you buy that 1 pound of meat, that costs 5,000 gallons of water. 5,000 gallons, where we are in a water shortage. So, in addition to the other problems. So the single most important factor for unsustainable practices is our choice of food, specifically the consumption of animals. Not to mention the torture that they go through to provide food for us. Tipping points have already been reached. This isn't something like, we're approaching the tipping point, we're almost there. We're past the tipping point, we are past it. And they're saying windows of averting irreversible damage are beginning to close. I mean, the door is open an inch now. We're so close to that. Therefore, the time to change to a fully plant-based diet is now, today, not down the road when it is too late. It has to be immediate. They're saying meatless Mondays is not good enough. Just skipping meat for one day is delusional that that's going to make any difference. It has to be all of it gone immediately. There is no debate that the most health-promoting and environmentally conscious way to live is through the consumption of a well-balanced vegan diet. There is no debate about this. Anyone who would deny this needs deep self-evaluation so they can ask themselves the hard question of why they feel the need to destroy and control life for their own misguided pleasure. This is Brian Clement from the Hippocrates Health Institute in West Palm Beach. He says, we petition you to become part of the human race and abandon the so-called norms that have created the catastrophic lifestyle that has all the earmarks to end life as we know it. That's where we're at. We're there. And this other guy, Dr. Richard Oppenlander, he wrote a book called Comfortably Unaware, which is what we are. We've got excesses of everything. Anything we want, any time of the day, as much as we want. That's how we're living. That's comfortably unaware. He said, instead of destroying our planet, we can be remembered as the generation that saved planet Earth. And that if you feel unable or unwilling to make this change for your own health, then would you consider it for those around you? Family, friends, other living beings with whom we share the planet, future generations. Start having a broader view of your selection. It's not just about you as an individual. The consequences are far-reaching. There's a movie called Cowspiracy out now, which this cattle rancher says, do you realize that 75% of Americans consider themselves to be environmentalists? You don't think we could solve this problem in a heartbeat? All we would need is for the environmentalists to live what they profess, and we'd be on a new course in the world, which means not eating animals. But nobody says that.
Gee.
So in addition, it's
I know.
costly. It costs $34 million in damage every year. And then there's the waste. We were talking about 200,000 horses before. The amount of animals now is creating 900 million tons of waste every year, which is equal to 3 tons of manure for every American every year, which is 7 million pounds of waste every minute. 7 million pounds of waste. So that's where they're like, where do you think this all goes? There's nowhere to put it. In America, we are 1/20th of the world's population, but we're eating 1/6 of the world's meat. And here's where the other meat consumptions of red meat. Australia, Canada, not so much Europe, but there's all the heavy red meat eaters.
I'm just making a sound problem
I
now,
know.
the red meat.
I know.
Huh? Should I throw it in the
No.
garbage?
No, don't.
Uh-huh. So
No, not
this is
today.
saying, what if your meat had labels that actually told you what was going on when that meat was raised and how it was killed? And this label on this one says, I've been forced to live outside for a year now. The conditions have caused a cancer in my eye. There is now a crater on the side of my head. I am the 95%. Would you buy that meat, you know, if it had the label? And what they're saying is there's this thing called pink slime. Have you heard of pink slime?
Oh, yeah.
People think eating meat just kills animals, but the truth is it's also
It's
killing you.
Inside and the
Right.
ground meat.
The ground meat.
Yeah, it's like that.
Yeah,
Well,
and
not
this,
much for ground meat
Oh.
anyway.
No, no,
That's disgusting.
yeah, this is actual
Mhm.
hamburgers.
yeah, and the slimy stuff.
And this is
inside.
what the pink slime looks like.
What in
Made
the
of
world is that?
animal entrails, organs, fat, and muscle, processed with the use of poisonous
Yeah.
ammonia, which they never are required to label that either. It's poisonous, toxic ammonia.
That's impressive.
You can see this on YouTube if you want to see it in motion.
Not that called for E. coli.
So the fact is, meat eaters have more health problems than people who don't eat meat. That is a fact. In addition, that the estrogen from the pink slime can also feminize men who are eating meat.
So you're saying you're supposed to? You're saying you're supposed to eat more meat?
No, I'm
No.
saying that meat
Oh,
eaters have
less.
more health problems.
More health problems, right?
Yes. An estimated 70% of processed red meat is full of pink slime. 70%.
70%.
Which, at the time of this, I believe it was last year or the year before, it was such a hot news item that all the
Yeah, they
fast
had
food
it on-
chains,
They had it on television.
yeah, they said they weren't going to use it
All the
anymore.
pink slime.
But instead, what happened was the USDA announced their plan to buy 7 million pounds of it for school lunches.
Mm.
Which school lunches are the lowest, bottom of the barrel, quality controlled food there is. Worse than military, worse than jail cells is school lunches.
Well, look at all the fast food
Right,
places,
right.
you know, they all have hamburgers. You know.
So here's another one with the chicken. My legs were badly broken from trying to support my genetically modified upper body. I am the 95%. And here's a normal chicken. After 5.5 weeks, he should be 940 grams. But when they genetically modify him to raise him faster with the growth hormones,
Yeah.
they become so heavy,
Mm.
Yeah.
2,900 grams, they can't support their own weight and their legs get broken. And these are actually other forms of genetically engineered chickens
too,
growing
so-
multiple wing parts and multiple legs,
Oh my.
and they're not even any more feathers.
That's
They've just
right.
destroyed them.
That, yeah.
Mm.
So what is the 95%? 95% are raised in deplorable conditions such as overcrowding, hunger, thirst, mutations, and oftentimes fatal weather. 95% of those factory-raised animals. And the last one here is a pig. He says, I live in a shithole, and I mean that more literally than you may think. And that's why I'm saying, if that was on the sausages, would you buy it? And here's the pig, just up to
What kind
his
of pig is
belly
that?
in
Oh.
sewage, which again, you know, they're not showing overcrowded, but usually these feedlots have just one next to each other with the cows and everything. And the smell is horrendous driving through these areas. And
Yeah, I
again,
know pig farms.
it has nowhere to go. So here's chicken nugget meat. That's what that looks like.
Chicken nugget meat.
All the kids eating chicken nuggets 100% of the time. And this cat says, I just found out what hot dogs really are made of.
Oh, gee.
And here's the hot
I
dog
love
on
a
the
hot dog
bottom.
once in a while.
That's paste.
You can buy it, yeah.
Ay, ay,
So
ay.
what's in your hot dog? Chemicals, bugs, bone, pig snouts, metal, rodent
Kosher-
parts,
the kosher
pig
ones.
anuses, and
Pig
plastic.
what?
Kosher ones.
What?
I can't hear you, what'd you say?
Move up.
Oh, it is, it's just that, yeah, they're talking.
I'm saying all these things have been found in hot dogs. Pig anuses, plastic, rodent parts, pigs' snouts,
Come on.
carcasses from old or thin cattle and swine, cheeks, jowls, hearts, tongues, lips, eyelids, gums, intestines, ears, nostrils, tails, tendons, windpipes, liver, kidney, fat, bone, blood, preservatives, enjoy. So
I've seen that a long time.
all these kids eating chicken nuggets, hot dogs, you know, and that's why they're getting weaker. That's why they're not going to live as long. That's why they're getting adult diseases. And the parents know nothing about it.
Exactly, yeah.
So factory farming hurts everyone. It's not just the torture of the animals. When they're experiencing that and living in those conditions and you're eating them, you're getting their same hardships. And they say nowadays 100% of chickens have cancer that they just cut out and serve it to you. And now what's happening with the chickens is they're being raised in this country, but they're being processed in China.
Right.
So they're
It's
transporting them 7,000 miles each way for the cheaper quality processing of China and then shipping them back. And you know, all those dollar menus and everything, nobody thinks about, why is that only $1? Like, you don't think about it. So the calcium conspiracy, where dozens of milk mustache ads are always telling people that if you drink more milk, you'll have stronger bones and less osteoporosis. When in fact, a 12-year nurses' health study with 78,000 women found no evidence at all that that was true, that milk reduced osteoporosis or bone fractures. In fact, it showed that women who drank less milk had less chance of getting osteoporosis or bone fractures. The calcium losing effect that animal protein causes is not a matter of controversy in the scientific circles. It is an absolute phenomenal correlation between the ratio of plant to animal foods and hip fractures in a survey of diet. The more plant foods people eat, the stronger their bones and the fewer fractures they experience. So in milk, there are all kinds of problems. Growth hormones, acidic protein, which leaches calcium from the bone. That's not just that it doesn't give you calcium for your bones, it actually leaches calcium out of your bones. And whatever's in milk is more concentrated in cheese. So here's some GMO cows. This is without steroids. These genetically modified cows being raised for bigger and stronger muscle mass for leaner and better beef. They're just scientific nightmares.
God almighty.
And genetically modified food is what's causing tumors in us. So,
Right.
okay, this is how they make liver pate. If you've ever had liver pate, the way they do it is they take these geese and they force feed them with these tubes. They hold onto their necks and they hook them up to this funnel. The food comes down this tube and they're forced, it's called force feeding, and they're forced to intake this food and they're just like choking. And what it does is it causes their liver to become engorged and swollen because they're mass eating, and that's what people call a delicacy, is eating that swollen, fatty liver pate. And this is how they make it.
It's a delicacy. It's
That's
very
what I'm
expensive,
saying.
you know that?
That's what I'm saying. They make it by force feeding the animal.
I know. You see it in
I like-
Paris. Sure.
Right?
Excellent.
Yeah.
So John Robbins, he did all this promotion on Diet for a New America over the last 40 years. He's been a phenomenal speaker, speaking out about this. And he says animals do not give their life to us as the sugar-coated lie would have it. No, we take their lives. They struggle and fight to the last breath, just as we would do if we were in their place. Factory farmed animals do not see daylight or soil a day in their life. They live opposite how nature intended. They feel so much pain, fear, and terror, and people eat that. When a cat plays with his food with a mouse, he's trying to let the adrenaline slowly drain out of the body of the mouse, like the fear from being hunted. That's why cats play with the mouse until it's completely dead, because the adrenaline slowly leaves. But in the factory farmed animals, the way that we kill them, the adrenaline is at its highest point ever. And that is poisonous to eat adrenaline, and we are eating that adrenaline because that's how we're killing them. So in order to keep them alive in these horrendous sick conditions, that's why they're pumped with so much antibiotics, which is causing resistance to antibiotics for these superbugs that they're creating, which exist today, not in some future world. So how did superbugs get here? That's how they get here. The animals are fed the antibiotics. They create this bacteria in their body that won't die any longer. It becomes different strains that are no longer, they're more resistant to the antibiotics. We eat that in the meat, and then we get those in us. And that means people are going to be getting sick, and there's not going to be a cure for them. Unless they use potentially herbs, but some of them are even stronger than herbs can work on. So no one wants to think there's something wrong with their way they're eating. Like, I don't enjoy giving this presentation, but I have to, this is what I ask people, where do you think all this food is coming from? It's not like we're driving around seeing farms and chickens and cows and pigs to supply the food for these fast food restaurants that is available any time of day, as much as you want, all the time, for these crowded cities that have so many people. Where is all that food coming from? Nobody stops to think about that, and it's actually hidden. The only way we know what goes on in those factory farms is because employees have these hidden cameras, and they see what's going on, and they start recording it. Yeah, right?
Yeah.
But most people don't even think twice or even once about where is all this food coming from.
Now you're writing a book, is that it?
Well, I wrote that one book.
You started?
Yeah, that has the, when people say, well then what do I eat? What can I eat then? That's what everybody says immediately. What is there left to eat if I can't eat meat?
No, that's what.
Yeah, so I have 200 recipes in there.
You do?
Yeah. So Albert Einstein said, he was so advanced, it's incredible, but he said nothing will benefit human health and increase chances for survival on Earth as much as the evolution. It is an evolution to a vegetarian diet, and that's
animal eating, yeah.
That's the condition we're in on the planet. We're not back in where everything is available. We're squashed to death.
So what do you eat?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I created the book so that, because that question always comes up, so then it's in there, and then,
Very good.
There's a lot of
Very informative.
Yeah, so over, people who live a vegan diet live longer, 15 years over someone eating animals. So usually, we know this from females and males. They always say females live longer than men because females usually eat more salads than men. Men eat more meat. It's not anything new. I heard there's been a 300% increase in vegetarianism. I heard this last week on the news, but that's still only 3% of the population. Only 3%. So continuing to eat animals after learning this information is the single most important thing to stop doing. And it becomes the behavior of a sociopath, someone who is walking around numb and continuing to make irresponsible choices. If you were to see something like this, learn all the problems it's causing to continue doing that. The definition of a sociopath is someone who is disconnected from the consequences of his behavior, one who lacks a sense of moral responsibility or social conscience. And I know that is a harsh term, but that's where we're at. There's no more time to ask nicely, and it's not even good for you. There's not even a benefit for it. I just showed you how it's causing everyone to be sick and get tumors and get cancer. There's no reason to continue it. So this cartoon says, stop eating so many vegetables. I can't seem to find anything wrong with you. There was a book called The China Study, which is the most comprehensive study ever done on this. And in these countries here, it's showing the difference. In red is how many deaths are caused by heart disease or cancer, compared to in green is the percent of calories from eating plant foods. So the countries that ate the least amount of plant foods in green had the highest amounts of heart disease and cancer, which is Hungary and the United States here. Germany's not even on this list, but on the end here, on this side, with the most plant foods was Laos and Thailand, compared to how many deaths they had. It's a 1-to-1 ratio of how much you eat in plant food and how. So again, the China study was the most comprehensive study of diet and death rates from cancer ever done, with 2,400 Chinese counties, which, you know.
Rate of cancer more than 2 times.
Yeah, and
Chinese
what they found was that the whole plant foods are health promoting, while animal foods cause disease regardless of whether they were organic or not organic. It didn't matter. And the children who ate the highest protein diets were the ones most likely to get liver cancer, which is what they started out testing. Everybody's so concerned with protein, protein, protein. The highest percentage of protein were the most likely to get liver cancer. And they said, in fact, dietary protein proved to be so powerful in its effect that they could literally turn it on and turn it off simply by changing the level of protein. They watched the cancer increase and slow down in its growth rate, which not all proteins had this effect. It was casein that was the worst. From cow's milk and cheese, the casein was the worst protein. The one that did not promote cancer at the highest levels of intake was the plant proteins. So they could actually take plant proteins and feed that person and watch the cancer decline, and then switch it back to animal proteins and watch the cancer increase in the liver, back and forth, 100% of the time. The plant proteins brought it down. 100% of the time, the animal proteins increased it again. The findings are consistent. The attitude we have towards our personal pets as opposed to the animals that suffer under the factory farm is hypocritical and delusional. And we even are this way with our wildlife. You know, if we see a turtle crossing the road, we do everything we can to help that turtle over, you know, go around it. If we see a pelican with wires or fishing line, you know, we do everything we can to save that pelican, but we never do anything for these factory farm animals. So you can help one bite at a time. And hopefully it's not McDonald's, that one bite, which there's a movie, Super Size Me, talking all about the effects of McDonald's. And fast food, this is what typical Americans are eating. Aspartame in the Coke, MSG in the burgers, genetically altered French fries, fluoride in the water, and Prozac for dessert. Junk food is engineered on purpose to addict you to chemical ingredients. It's a business. So what are you feeding your kids? Most kids are eating soda, fast foods, chips, desserts, hamburgers, as well as not being very active anymore. And Coke has changed its size over the years, 1955, 1915. Depending on how big it was or how small it was, it consistently made you gain weight though. You know, in 1988, 44 ounces, you would gain 57 pounds a year drinking one of those a day. And depending on the size, it consistently increased weight. Soda has all kinds of problems: phosphoric acid, alarmingly high sugar, aspartame, which causes brain tumors and diabetes, caffeine, and tap water, which is full of chlorine, lead, cadmium. I mean, people think ordering soda is better than ordering tap water, but that's what it is made out of, tap water.
Tap water is not good.
better for you?
You're supposed to buy it?
No.
What are you saying? Tap water is not good, yeah?
Well, you can test your tap water, but most tap water is no longer, have it tested. I'm saying, yeah, you would. The best way is reverse osmosis.
I think the Florida water here, I think it's excellent.
You drink it
It's
from
better
the
here,
tap.
absolutely.
Okay, well I
No,
don't know.
my son would
You'd have
not.
to
He
test it.
takes his,
Yeah.
he gets his cases of water. I do not. I'd like the water, and I do drink water.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
So
They cannot. Wouldn't you say they would take care of us? I mean, even Florida. I mean,
well,
and testing the water the right way.
you would have to test it because fluoride has been introduced into the water supply, and chlorine to kill the bacteria. Is it city water or well water?
No, it's city, aren't you? We
So
live
it
here.
has to have chlorine and
You know,
fluorine.
I haven't been too long here, but the city water here,
Yeah,
right?
so the chlorine that they put in the water is designed to get rid of any microorganisms and bacteria.
Right.
But you have to filter that out before you drink it, or it's going to kill the intestinal flora in you and the good bacteria, which we are 100 times more bacteria than human cells. We have 100 trillion non-human bacteria cells and only 10 trillion human cells.
Right.
So if you don't get the chlorine out, and it has to be in there, or
So what are you saying? In other words, you buy water. You buy water in the bottle?
I have a reverse osmosis filter under my sink,
Or you have to have a filter water. Okay, okay.
and
Right.
it takes out 97%
Okay.
of whatever's in the water.
Oh, you still do?
Yeah, we just installed a reverse osmosis in
Oh,
our
is that the
sink
one?
too.
Oh, is that the one you installed?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
so it filters out the chemicals.
think it's all right,
A lot
yeah?
of the chemicals from the water.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't like drinking tap water just because it has a lot of
Chemicals.
chlorine in
Thanks,
it
Kevin.
and chemicals.
I mean, if
find
nothing
it's-
else,
I
get the
find it-
chlorine. The
Someone-
chlorine is in there. It's a fact. It has to be to get the bacteria and the microorganisms, or else you'd have to boil the water.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
But you have to get that out before you drink it. 'Cause-
right.
And showering it is actually worse than even drinking it. So even getting a shower filter. Because then you're inhaling it and you're breathing in the vapors.
Okay.
Well,
In my
stay
age,
dirty.
Yeah, it's up to you.
It
Right.
soaks through your skin also, doesn't it?
I'm sorry?
It goes through your skin, but it's
Oh.
because of the inhaling of it that it's worse.
Well, I don't know.
But
about
swimming, and that's why hot tubs are, don't stay in it more than,
I don't go
5
into
minutes.
hot tub.
All right, so caffeine, everyone seems to be addicted on caffeine these days. It has drug withdrawal reactions, it produces dependence, impairs physical and mental performance. I mean, initially, people, say they feel increased performance, but once the caffeine wears off, then they drop
They say it's good for your
below
brain.
the normal levels.
They say caffeine is good for your brain.
Well, yeah, we're gonna get into that. So how much caffeine is in that drink? 16 ounces of coffee, this is how much caffeine is in a 16-ounce coffee compared to a 16-ounce latte. Has about half. 1 shot, 1 ounce of espresso, 12 ounces of Coke, 12 ounces of Mountain Dew. Nothing is in Sprite, apparently. 16-ounce full throttle. I'm just, going across here.
Right, yeah. Mhm.
So, and there's Rockstar and Red Bull now, everyone's drinking, but it's that brewed cup of coffee that, 16 ounces, which is, I guess, 2 cups of coffee. What happens is people need the coffee to wake up, then they get too much coffee, they can't sleep, then they probably have to have their glass of wine at night to go to sleep, and then they didn't get enough sleep, so then they can't wake up, so then they need their coffee to wake up, and it goes around
Right,
and
in a
around.
circle, right,
All
yeah.
the circles, yeah.
So Starbucks, I was just checking to see, with everybody talking about Starbucks like it's the greatest thing ever.
To my
Even
son,
kids,
okay.
even elementary school kids drinking Starbucks now. This is how much coffee we're drinking in this country, and I started to
Exactly.
question why.
Right.
Why are we drinking so much coffee?
It's
If this
tasty.
is what happens to you in the morning, where you can't talk to anyone until you have your cup of coffee,
Correct? Mhm. Not
and
me.
that
but-
is called a drug addict.
Yeah.
And then this is her on 1 cup of coffee, she's smiling here. After 2 cups of coffee, she's in a really good mood. But initially, she wakes up looking like this. That is a drug addict.
Yeah.
So are you starting to wonder, why does everyone need so much caffeine? And it's not just in coffee, it's in other foods. Caffeine works the same parts of the brain as cocaine, amphetamines, and heroin. Its addiction is gradual and subtle. It just has milder effects. Caffeine is an
It's an
excitotoxin.
addiction, yeah. that's right.
It's an addiction, absolutely.
Absolutely.
It's an excitotoxin that destroys the brain. Like most excitotoxins, caffeine causes brain malfunctions. Like alcohol and nicotine, it easily penetrates the blood-brain barrier, which is our protection for our brain, and can overexcite the brain neurons to death. Long-term consumption of caffeine, even in small doses, affects learning and memory by inhibiting the creation of neurons in the hippocampus of the brain. Caffeine is a nerve irritant that does not nourish the system in any way. Its temporary effects of high energy, alertness, wakefulness, increased strength, vivid imagination, and mental arousal are only nervous excitements produced before caffeine is ever digested and assimilated by the body. And when these effects are gone, these unnatural euphoric conditions disappear and only results to debility and languor. And like I said, people are feeding, all these kids here have Starbucks. This girl is drinking a little Monster drink, Jolt, to a baby, caffeine. Every system in your body runs on water, not soda, not energy drinks, or any other liquid. Excitotoxicity has been linked to neurodegenerative diseases of the central nervous system, which are ones like multiple sclerosis, Alzheimer's, ALS, everyone's doing that ice bucket challenge, that's ALS, fibromyalgia, Parkinson's, and Huntington's. These are all nervous system disorders. The nervous system is becoming unraveled. Caffeine also inhibits glucose utilization, which is how the brain heals itself. So what would happen to America if all of a sudden in one day there was no caffeine? What can you imagine what people would be like if it was immediately taken away? Do you think those people are drug addicts? What would they be like? They'd either be unable to get out of bed, or they would be so violently, enraged, they wouldn't be able to calm down.
Yeah, but I think it also depends on the strength of the coffee. You can get Starbucks. It's so bitter
I've never
afterwards.
had coffee in
I
Starbucks.
had one cup. I don't like it. I would never buy it. It's very strong and dark. And in Germany, our coffee is so much lighter.
Right. But
It's not. And we have these little.
I couldn't
cups.
drink that in Germany either. So.
I know, and we have these little cups. We don't have
Right.
these 16-ounce
Right.
containers.
The
what
German
they
cups,
feel.
Yeah, like we keep needing more and
I
more and
know,
more,
you
bigger and
increase
bigger
the-
and more often.
Yeah, you increase the the quantity.
Right.
Yeah.
So what would we run on without our artificial energy? That is our artificial energy.
Mhm.
And it also depletes the body of adrenaline, which is what we're supposed to use when you need extra energy.
Mhm.
That's what you're supposed to use. When you're
Right.
constantly drinking caffeine, then your body says, well, you don't need me anymore. And just, that's your artificial energy.
Mhm.
So the other things that are excitotoxins causing nerve damage is aspartame, which is like Equal or NutraSweet, also
Yes,
produced by
I
Monsanto,
don't use any of those.
destroys the central nervous system. And it's not any better. The diet soda, it actually makes you fatter drinking that. It dries up the lubricating synovial fluid in the joints, turns them into plastic, which is what some of the fibromyalgia symptoms are. Causes diabetes, memory loss, ADHD, Alzheimer's. And 2/3 of the population regularly consume aspartame. Michael J. Fox, the famous
Yeah,
Parkinson's
actor.
spokesperson, was also a former Diet Pepsi spokesman, and informants say he's addicted to it. Did you know Coke and Pepsi are used as pesticides in India because they are cheaper and more effective than these harmful chemical pesticides? It's because they act the same way. They disable the nervous system of the insects, just as it does in humans. So I just love that ad where it says open happiness.
Spraying the vegetable is Coca-Cola? It means
Pepsi
pest
and
control?
Coca-Cola.
Okay, great.
So there it is, open happiness. So pesticides, like I was saying, are also neurotoxins.
Right.
Very much linked to ADHD in children. Interfering with the nervous system of insects, that's their job, but they do the same thing in mammals and humans. When they tested kids who had high levels of pesticide in their blood, 93% were more likely to have ADHD than children who did not have detectable levels. So that's like almost 100%. Do you still think organic vegetables are too expensive? All these parents having these problems with their kids with ADHD, and it's been linked absolutely. We are a society that is burning itself out with excessive stimulants and excitotoxins. Sugar, cell phones, internet, video games, even our constant shopping. These are all ways of, like, we're just wanting more, faster, like we're all on crack cocaine or something. We're all on hyperdrive, multitasking nonstop with no time to even listen. I can hardly get anybody to listen to a presentation of this length about how our lifestyle is rapidly destroying our one and only planet and ourselves. Most social networkers check their texts, emails, Facebook obsessively all the time or every 15 minutes like a lab rat trained to get a reward. We are behaving like lab rats. The rewards are the messages. You hear the bell, the text, the whatever it is. It serves as a jolt of energy that is like recharging the compulsion engine, much like a gambler who gets a new card every time. The gambler is addicted to gambling. It's the same thing, they're saying. Cumulatively, the effect is potent and hard to resist. And this kind of web use is rewiring our brains. The brains of internet addicts look like the brains of drug and alcohol addicts. There was a Chinese study done that found abnormal white matter, which is extra nerve cells, built for speed in the areas charged with attention control and decision making. And the same thing with video games. They found extra nerve cells in the abnormal white matter. At the same time, they found shrinkage in the gray matter, which is responsible for processing speech, memory, motor control, emotions, sensory, and other information. And worse, they found out the shrinking never stopped. It didn't just reach a certain level, it continued to shrink in the gray matter. The more time online, the more the brain showed signs of atrophy. And then it also has withdrawal symptoms. They all say depression and anxiety from if you are not allowed to use your cell phone or not allowed to play the video game or not allowed to go on the internet. People were asked, would you rather live without your spouse for the weekend or your cell phone? And they could not give up their cell phones, but they could give up their spouse. As well as compulsive personality traits. And here's the Newsweek article that I got that out of. Connection addiction is rewiring our brains. So I don't think it's a coincidence that at the same time we are burning our brains out with all the excitotoxic chemicals and internet texting activity that we now drink more coffee. Something has to make up for that loss of gray matter that is steadily atrophying. We know we need more coffee. We don't even think there's anything wrong with it. I just heard on the news today they were saying there was some DNA linkage to why people who drinks coffee and who doesn't. And the newscaster, who looked like a very sensible, intelligent woman, she was like, oh, I know I have the Java gene, and they're all laughing about this, and nobody thinks this is a problem. This is a problem. More and more people have become weakened within their immune system and environmentally sensitive, allergic to almost every kind of food, but it is not just the food causing cancer. Harmful electromagnetic frequencies are bombarding us every day all around us and interfering with our body's immune system and electrical circuitry, which we are electrical magnetic beings. We have that, from cell phones, Wi-Fi, smart meters, microwaves, and somehow, as I said, even smartphones have become addicting.
That's all they have, the kids.
I know. And 2-year-olds, I heard 50% of 2-year-olds have a smartphone.
I saw it, I have seen it.
50%.
Yeah.
Because that's what their parents want, is to them to be occupied, but their brains are just developing. They don't know what they're doing. It's such a new technology. We don't realize.
They're also using it in some schools now.
You mean that?
Yeah, they're using
Is
it on
that-
the computer in some nursery schools.
Yeah, so he's saying what? There's a new study saying radiation causes brain tumors, infertility, headaches, nausea, and cancer. Bury it. Business is booming. I mean, that's the same thing. We're so oblivious. We think coffee, it's the new rage, Starbucks. Cell phones keep getting the latest one. I'm sure they keep getting worse. The iPhone 6. When President Obama first ran for office, they didn't even have iPhones. That's how new it is. And now we're saying we can't live without it. We couldn't, give it up for a day. And it wasn't even around 7 years ago.
Yeah.
If you say you don't have a cell phone, people look at you strange, like, where have you been?
Yeah,
You know, you're like left behind.
I know.
in the last-
I was
in the last
running a
century.
farmer's market for
Yeah.
a one season, and people were like, "How are you going to do that without a cell phone? You
Yeah.
can't run a farmer's market." And I was
Why
like,
is
"What are you
it-
talking about? I
Yeah.
live my life all the time without
Yeah.
a cell phone."
When the store, they say, what's your email? I don't have email.
Yeah.
What?
Yes.
No, I don't like the texting, in other
Yeah.
words.
Yeah.
When I
So
have
the
company
average,
here, they're
What?
texting each other, okay?
I know,
They're
the
just sitting
average
there.
person
Nobody has a
texts
conversation
400
anymore.
texts a month. The average person 400 texts a month, but the average teenager does 3,700 texts
Yeah,
a
they
month.
do.
And they said the computer is like electronic cocaine, and that's what I'm saying. It stimulates the same area of the brain as cocaine. All these things seem to do that. We're all fixated on that area of the brain. They have a new mental disorder coming out this year in the new Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, the medical manual of mental disorders, called Internet Addiction Disorder.
Come on.
And they're actually treating teens with electroshock therapy
Oh my God.
to try to get them from being.
Electronic cocaine.
That's awful, yeah.
Yes, I know. That's what I'm saying. We're all like
Electronic
speed.
cocaine.
We're a society of
Electronic
speed.
cocaine.
Yeah.
We want fast. We want speed. We want
Yeah.
constant.
Faster, faster, bigger.
But it's burning out the gray matter of our brain.
So
See,
shock therapy.
The white matter is increasing because it's becoming like a muscle that's just getting tighter and tighter. But the gray matter is atrophying because we're not using it anymore.
Well, we don't use it because we don't socialize anymore.
Yeah, those
Yeah.
skills are going
Yeah.
away, and that was that issue in the magazine. So in addition, it's making sperm motility decrease. I just read a study yesterday that a guy who started using his cell phone in 1992, 6 people in his office, he's a salesman, that were always on the phone with their cell phones 20 years ago, now all have tumors behind their
Yeah,
ears.
that probably
It's
took that
correct.
year, yeah.
And that's because
Yeah.
they're the first that are showing it because they were constantly using it for that amount of time.
Uh-huh.
They're saying that after a decade of cell phone use, the chance of getting a brain tumor goes up as much as 40%. And that, we're not even at a decade, hardly, with this new technology.
I have a daughter-in-law, she does it in the kitchen, in other words. She can talk to me, okay, and she's
Yeah.
I'm fine, you know. I can hear you. Meanwhile,
Yeah.
she's making a meatloaf and she's making,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
never taking it off the head.
Oh, that's even worse if they're
And
wearing
they're saying,
it
you
on
know,
their
mother,
ear.
you should get one. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I have a
Yeah.
friend and her daughter, when she would go out at night, she would put her cell phone in her breast,
Yeah, oh, yeah. And that,
and now they discovered that she has cancer. Exactly the same
Exactly.
the same way where she had where she
You think so?
yeah.
and they're saying the same
Yeah.
thing with if you put it in your pocket
Yeah,
all the
it's
time.
the same thing.
People have this phantom sensation
if
of
you-
their phone
yeah.
vibrating,
Yeah.
and it's
And
triggering their
it's
nerves.
exactly on that spot where
Yep.
she always carried
Yeah.
the little cell phone.
And even a laptop, you should never have it on your lap, especially
Yeah,
right
that's what
on
they
your
say, yeah.
genital organs. You
No.
know, you should put some kind of barrier
I don't know.
between it. But so anyone with a cell phone before the age of 20 is 5 times as likely to develop a brain tumor. And all
Come
these
on.
teenagers and 2-year-olds. That's what I'm saying. The
That's
2-year-olds.
idea.
So they're saying, Maureen Dowd in the New York Times recently wrote, "Are cell phones the new cigarettes? We can't give them up." They're expecting that this is going to lead to a health crisis similar to asbestos, smoking, and
Smoking,
lead
yeah.
that we
Is
never
that right?
knew until it was too late.
Is that right?
Radiation.
And here's what happens with a
Yeah.
5-year-old with the radiation from the cell phone. It goes almost all the way through their skull. A 10-year-old starting to get a thicker skull, so it doesn't go quite all the way through compared to an adult with a much thicker skull. It's just that area. But with a 5-year-old, with a 2-year-old, there's no protection against it. And these are all the sources that we have going on everywhere around us. In addition to the food, you know, you can see how we're just, that's why 80% of people are going to have cancer in 15 years.
Yeah.
We have no protection against this. It's all over the place. So what do we do? How do we protect ourselves? How do we build up our immune system to compete with all these attacks? How do we reverse the damage we ourselves have created, mostly in just the last 30 years? How do we survive the 6th great mass extinction ourselves? The answer is we need to evolve. This is an active evolution. If we don't evolve, we don't continue. If we don't continue, we will cease to exist. William Cooper said, like it or not, everything is changing. The result will be the most wonderful experience in the history of man or the most horrible enslavement that you can imagine. The future is in your hands, and it's right now. We have to stop just coasting along and doing the same things that everyone else is doing. We start deciding to choose foods that are grown and raised sustainably for the planet, because the planet is also just overwhelmed. But first it starts with yourself and your own health, and the health of the future human race starts with today's children and whether or not they will grow into healthy adults. Because if they keep getting sicker and sicker, that's the trend we're on. It has to start with their reproduction. Eckhart Tolle, author of A New Earth, wrote, a significant portion of the Earth's population will soon recognize, if they haven't already done so, that humanity is now faced with a stark choice, evolve or die. In other words, I'm saying eat sustainably, or the food itself is purposely being engineered to kill you and make the population who is not eating sustainably sterile. And if the food doesn't do it, your cell phone probably will.
Oh dear.
So Native Americans live with the awareness of how their actions would affect the next 7 generations. We can't even get people to focus past their next meal. Our denial is all-consuming, our resistance is strong, we outright refuse to change or to care. The question is, why not? What is wrong with us that we're so apathetic to this? The Hopi elders gave a speech at the United Nations in 2011. They said, you've been telling the people that this is the 11th hour. Now you must go back and tell people that this is the hour. Where are you living? Where is your garden? And do not look outside yourself for the leader. There is a river now flowing very fast, and it is flowing so fast that there are those that will feel threatened. They will want to hang on to the shore, but the river has its destination. Today, most of the humanity fear to lose the comfort that keeps us in the velvet prison. Do you realize that we are walking over dead bodies just by doing the regular shopping at the supermarket? Consumerism is coming to its end, and so is the grand experiment. It will be nature who will do the enforcement of Creator's one law. And you know, we're at the top of the food chain. Several years ago, I was like, well, what could keep us in check? Everything has its checks with the food chain. We're at the top. What could keep us in check? What do you think could kill us? It's the smallest microorganisms. Cancer. That's what's going to do us. That's because nature has to balance itself out. It will balance itself out. I think the only ones who will survive this are the ones who are living sustainably for the good of the earth and who are eating exactly and only for the good of their bodies, which are mere extensions of the same material that the earth is made of. This wouldn't be the first time humans were destroyed for being destructive. History has shown that. This isn't happening just because someone is trying to make a profit.
That's all they say that, they kill each other.
Yeah, this is not about money. So let's recap. If you were trying to reduce the all-consuming human overpopulation, what would you do? Contaminate the food supply, number 1. Make plants and trees sterile. Genetically alter the DNA of plants to cause cancer and sterilize humans. Reduce sperm count in men and reduce ways to procreate. Genetically modify corn and then use that ingredient in 75% of the processed food and feed it to all the animals and fish. Poison the fish and oceans with mercury. Take away the pollinators and natural pest controllers that have lived for millions of years. Weaken and attack the immune system through sexual transmission so even the act of procreating carries the virus. Make that virus mutate indefinitely so no medicine can ever cure it and people are forced to use condoms. Treat cancer with poisonous mustard gas and radiation so that the treatment is worse than the disease. Put chemicals in the water supply to alter sexuality and increase sterility. Make technology as addicting as it is harmful. And if that doesn't work, there's always the chemtrails that if you go, they're spraying aluminum from the air. Have I gotten your attention yet? This isn't just about the money. In 1798, Thomas Malthus wrote, the power of population is so superior to the power of the earth to produce subsistence for man that premature death must in some shape or other visit the human race. In other words, he's saying we populate so much faster than the earth can produce for us that we have to have premature death if we're going to stay ahead of that. Or, he says, the vices of mankind are active and able ministers of depopulating the population. You know, our bad habits, the things we do ourselves to kill ourselves. And they often finish the dreadful work themselves. But he's saying we can't live our life expectancies to keep the population of the earth at a level that's sustainable. But should those two things fail in this war of extermination, then sickly seasons, epidemics, pestilence, and plague can sweep away thousands and tens of thousands of people. And should success still be incomplete, gigantic famine is what his next thing is, and with one mighty blow levels the population with the food of the world, which is what they're doing now. It's the food that has been genetically manipulated. And he wrote this in 1798. So have you heard of the Malthusian movement? Have you heard of that? This guy, Thomas Malthus, he argued that human populations tend to increase at an exponential rate. Food production either keeps up or it doesn't. As a result, human populations can outstrip the food supply and eventually collapse the economy. 1798. So he said there's a point where the resources and the population have this intersection, and that's as much people as can be on the planet with the limited number of resources we have. They thought back then this is what might happen with the population, that we would have this peak in 1960-ish, and then it would dramatically drop, I don't know why, increase again, but then go downhill, downhill, downhill. That's what they thought would happen. But this is what happened instead. Our population has done nothing but increase. It took between 1 million and 2 million years for our population to reach 2 billion people, but in just the last 64 years we have tripled what took 2 million years to achieve. We've tripled in just 64 years.
That's sick.
And you can see here the plague is here, right? Right when it started to go up. I think the plague was probably an idea they had to try to curb population back then.
I saw that was out again somewhere. The Black Plague?
You know what?
The Black Plague is somewhere again?
Oh, really?
The bubonic plague.
I have to go. I have to leave. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, getting tired.
Okay, so yeah, this is almost to the end. This is just saying how fast we have doubled and doubled and doubled. First it took 19,000 years to double, then 5, then 2, then 1,600, then 1,400, then 1,200, then 500, 260, 37 years in 1997. The next time it was expected to double would have only been 15 years in 2012, but instead we didn't. We stopped at 7 billion. So why not? Why didn't we keep doubling? What do you think happened? We started all these methods
Exactly.
of stopping population growth. And that's the United Nations saying if we kept going versus if they controlled part of it. And they're expecting 8 billion people in 2024 at this rate. So
Now you would put all this together in the book.
no, this
Is
isn't
that what
in the
you're
book.
doing?
This isn't in the book. The book has different stuff.
It's different. Oh.
It has more solution stuff, but also other areas of awareness.
Okay.
This is what modern day Malthusians are saying. It's time for people to depopulate. That we've exhausted our non-renewable resources. So if you are eating the right foods in this Malthusian population solving scheme, your immune system should stay strong and you should have nothing to worry about.
Okay.
The question is, are you eating the right foods?
Yes, we are.
If you're not as informed as you could be, I invite you to consider making an investment in your health and awareness and benefit from over 20 plus years of traveling and research I have done by purchasing a copy of my latest book.
that's,
Yeah, that's the book.
that's the book, right.
The planet is changing faster than it ever has before, and if you don't learn how to navigate the dangers in the food supply and learn how our food choices directly impact the future of our planet, you may not survive what is sure to come next. And in different generations, this is a different level of a problem. Like,
I see,
I'm not
okay.
as concerned with my parents as I
Right.
am with my generation and the generations that are younger than me. Leonardo DiCaprio at the recent climate summit last couple weeks ago, he said, "None of this is rhetoric and none of this is hysteria. It is a fact." President Obama himself said, "The alarm bells keep ringing. We can't keep ignoring the call. We are the first generation to feel the impact of climate change and the last generation who can do something about it." So he's even saying we are the last, this is the last time. And John Kerry said the same thing. "We wake up each day and listen to Mother Nature on every given day who is screaming at us about it." So again, he's just saying we can either be known for the generation that destroyed the earth or the generation that turned this around. And in just 15 years, Glacier National Park is expected to be completely melted. There's actually these Georgia Guidestones that
It's very interesting.
that have this written on them,
Very
that
interesting.
the human population should be reduced to 500 million. And they just recently added that there is a stone, this is written in 8 languages.
Wow.
They just recently added this stone here that says 2014. So, whatever that means.
Right. Well, I think that, you're very informative.
Oh, it's 4:30.
Ouch.
It's 4:30 because I have a friend coming by
Somebody's
Yeah.
coming?
to my house.
Oh, your house?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Thanks for coming,
I didn't
ladies.
realize it.
Is that you're collecting?
Well, I guess.
Oh yeah, thank you very much.
Okay.
You
So
should've
so
gotten more.
what are you eating?
All right,
You're
so
very
I
What?
will-
What are you eating?
Eating?
Yes.
Vegetarian food.
Only.
He's a vegan.
Oh,
No,
he's a
vegetarian.
vegan.
Vegetarian.
Nice meeting you.
Nice
Yeah.
to meet you.
All right.
How old are you?
I'm not going to.
14.
Beautiful skin,
No, my
Yeah.
golly,
He's very
Good
handsome.
thing
Yeah.
you really put
I
it
know,
I'm
it
sorry
was
about
very
that.
good of you
That's
to
like-
stay.
It was great.
Very important.
Okay,
I
thank you for
appreciate
coming.
it. Thank you. Bye, Bob.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Should I stop this?
That's it, that's it?
Yeah.
Should I stop it?
I'm stopping.
Yeah.